The sky looked strange that night. It wasn't a storm, but something was wrong. The stars disappeared one by one. People came out of their homes, looking up in confusion. Children pointed. Dogs barked. Phones buzzed. Then, it happened. A loud, deep hum filled the air like thunder, but mechanical. A giant shadow moved across the clouds, then another. And another. They weren't clouds. They were ships, huge black ships that floated without wings or sound. The ships didn't belong to Earth. In New York, sirens screamed. In Tokyo, buildings lit up red. In Paris, soldiers gathered. But no one knew what to do. The ships just hovered, silent, watching. A voice came through every screen and speaker, cold, robotic, unfeeling. This is the Zarn Empire. Your planet is now under our control. Do not resist. Your leaders will surrender. If you obey, we will not destroy you. People screamed. Some fell to their knees. Others ran, but it was already too late. The Empire had arrived. The governments tried to talk. They begged. They asked for peace, but the Empire didn't care. It saw Earth as weak, divided, easy to take. So the attack began. Explosions lit the skies. Empire drones flew over cities, scanning, recording, targeting. Earth's few defense satellites were taken down in seconds. Fighter jets were destroyed before they left the ground. In just one day, the Empire took over half the planet. But in the shadows, someone watched. Deep underground in a hidden bunker beneath the Rocky Mountains, a woman stared at her screen. Her name was Dr. Rachel Vuss. She wore a black coat and round glasses. Her face was calm, but her eyes burned with fire. Beside her stood a tall man with scars on his face and a strange metal glove on his right hand. He looked like a soldier, but older, stronger, quieter. His name was Marcus Kane. They've started, Rachel said. Marcus nodded. Right on time. She pressed a red button. Lights turned green all across the room. On the screens, dots lit up across the globe. Hidden bunkers, satellites, and deep-sea facilities. It's time to activate the Leviathan, Rachel said. Marcus looked at her. Are you sure? They think we're weak, she replied. Let them think that a little longer. Far above them, in the lead Empire ship, Commander Threx watched Earth from his command deck. He was tall, gray-skinned, with 4 eyes and silver armor. His voice was like steel. This planet is slower than we expected, he said. Their military is a joke, one of his officers nodded. They have no unity, no global defense. This is almost too easy. Threx looked down at Earth. Prepare the harvest protocol. Take their resources, process the population. But as the officer turned to leave, a red warning flashed on the screen, a soft beeping sound, then more. What is that? Threx growled. Unknown activity. Something is moving underground, multiple points. It's coordinated. Impossible. This world has no central command, Threx said. But he was wrong. Back on Earth, deep under the sea, strange machines came to life hidden by decades of silence. In space, a small satellite turned toward the Empire fleet and began transmitting data to Earth's secret AI. Rachel watched as Leviathan, the AI system she had built in secret, began to activate. Launch Phase 1, she said. Marcus smiled. Let the Empire bleed. Suddenly, in the middle of a peaceful city under Empire control, an explosion tore through an alien storage tank. Then another, and another. Empire troops screamed. Black smoke filled the sky, but it wasn't a bomb. It was a virus, a cyber weapon, launched through an old Earth satellite. It attacked the Empire's communication system. Their scanners showed friendly units as enemies. Their weapons failed to lock on targets. Threx shouted, "What is happening? Find the source." But there was no source to find. Earth was not attacking in the open. It was fighting like a ghost in the mountains. Marcus led a small team dressed in old farming clothes. They looked like farmers, but inside their carts were energy rifles stolen from Empire patrols. They attacked and vanished. Hit and run. Disappear again. Every night more Empire troops died. Not in big battles, but in strange, quiet, invisible ways. They were hunted. Inside the bunker, Rachel watched data flow across the screens. They don't understand this kind of war, she whispered. They've never fought humans on Earth. They don't know our spirit. Marcus stood beside her, watching a video of a successful ambush in Africa. A group of villagers used mirrors to blind an Empire drone, then took it down with sticks and a stolen plasma cutter. They call us weak, he said. But they don't know what we become when we lose everything. Empire ships began falling from the sky. Small units vanished in forests and deserts. Cities the Empire thought were under control suddenly blacked out. Supply lines were broken. Food stopped moving. Drones vanished. On the fourth night, Commander Threx stood in silence. His face was pale. His ship was now the only one still fully operational. All others had suffered strange malfunctions. He called for backup from the Empire's main fleet, but no signal came. The long-range relay was destroyed by a laser shot from Earth's own moon base. Threx whispered, "This is not a simple world." He called for a war council. But as he spoke, the lights in his ship blinked. The screens turned black. Then one screen lit up showing a human face. A young man with dark hair and a calm smile stared at Threx. His eyes burned with confidence. "Hello, Commander," he said. "My name is Agent Cade. I've been on your ship for weeks." Threx's eyes widened. "You what?" "I studied your patterns. Your weaknesses. You thought we were afraid. We were just patient." Cade leaned forward. "You didn't attack Earth. You walked into our trap." Then the screen went black. Seconds later, the ship's engines shut down. The lights failed. The alarms screamed. The flagship of the Empire was now blind. Rachel leaned back in her chair, hands folded. "Phase 1 complete," she said. "They'll think twice before calling Earth weak again." Above her, in the sky, the stars returned one by one. The enemy ships were falling. But the real power of Earth had just begun to rise. Dark shapes floated in the air like mountains of steel. The Empire's landing ships began to descend. They moved slowly, carefully, like predators ready to strike. Their heavy engines roared like monsters, making the ground shake. Cities around. The world watched in fear. In Nairobi, a massive shadow covered the streets. One child pointed up and whispered, "It's blocking the sun." In Moscow, the air froze as 3 ships landed near an abandoned airport. The snow melted beneath their heat. In Rio, entire neighborhoods stood still, holding their breath as the first alien soldiers stepped out. They called themselves the Zarn Elite. Tall, armored, and silent. Their skin was dark blue, with sharp lines glowing red. Their weapons looked like lightning trapped in glass. They moved with precision, not speaking unless ordered. People expected fire, blood, destruction. But the Empire didn't need to kill. They already believed Earth had fallen. "We are here to restore order," one officer said in perfect English, through a mechanical translator. "Do not resist. There will be peace." Some believed it. They stepped aside, opened gates, dropped their weapons. After all, Earth's armies had already failed in the sky. What else could be done? In New York, a schoolteacher stood by her window and whispered, "Maybe it's better this way. Maybe we won't have to suffer." But she didn't know what was happening beneath the surface. Far below the streets, in a dark tunnel system hidden. Since the Cold War, Marcus Kane stared at a map glowing on the wall. Red dots showed the enemy's landing zones. Blue dots marked resistance cells. "They're spreading fast," said a young woman beside him. Her name was Zara. She had fire in her eyes and a rifle across her back. "People think they've already won." Marcus didn't speak. He simply pressed a switch. The map zoomed in on a location in South America. "They're getting comfortable," he finally said. "It's time to remind them what Earth really is." On the other side of the planet, Commander Threck stood proudly in a wide square of Berlin. He watched as his soldiers marched through the streets, scanning buildings, scanning people. Resistance was low. Spirits were broken. The planet was falling apart, or so he thought. "We've taken 7 cities," reported one officer. No coordinated response. No military resistance. Threx looked toward the sky. "Their fear makes them weak. This will be over soon." But, just as he turned, a small explosion rocked the street 2 blocks away. Not loud, not flashy, just enough to catch attention. Smoke rose into the sky. Soldiers ran. People screamed. Threx's eyes narrowed. What was that? No signal, no warning. "Could be local criminals," said the officer. "We'll investigate." Second explosion came on the other side of the square. Then a third. Suddenly, power went out across the entire block. Empire scanners failed. Radios went silent. Lights flickered and died. It wasn't an attack. It was a message. Deep in the underground tunnels of Mexico City, Rachel Voss watched a monitor as symbols began to appear on Empire computers worldwide. A human hand, a burning planet. Then a phrase written in every language: "We are not your prey." Rachel smiled. Phase 2 complete. Above ground, Empire soldiers struggled to find the source. They arrested humans, questioned local leaders, but no one had answers. Not even the frightened civilians. In truth, the answers were buried in the dirt. Earth's resistance didn't work like armies. It worked like fire, quiet at first, but waiting for air. In Sydney, a group of teenagers used old radios to send fake signals to Empire ships. One ship crashed into a warehouse after chasing a ghost signal. In Egypt, an old woman sold bread to soldiers during the day and passed coded messages at night. In Canada, a farmer turned his barn into a hidden weapons lab. Commander Threx couldn't understand it. Every time he thought a city was under control, it would turn. Attacks would happen. Supplies would vanish. Empire drones would fall from the sky. He shouted at his officers. "This planet is playing with us. Why do they not fight?" Directly? No one had an answer. One night, as Threx walked through a quiet zone near London, he heard a whisper behind him, "Because this is our home." He turned fast but saw nothing. Just shadows and empty air. He reached for his weapon, but it was gone. A knife was pressed against his neck. "You made a mistake," the voice said. Threx froze. "You thought we were weak." Then the knife vanished. The figure melted into the night. Threx stood there, shaking, unable to breathe. In the bunker, Marcus received the report. "You let him live?" Rachel asked. Marcus nodded. "Fear spreads faster than blood." And it did. Over the next 2 days, Empire forces slowed down. Soldiers stopped patrolling at night. Officers began locking their doors. The Empire's rule, once strong, began to crack. But something worse was coming. In Los Angeles, an Empire science officer discovered a hidden human data center. He broke in, thinking it was a minor base. Inside, he found something horrifying: video footage, dozens of files, all showing the Zarn Empire's past invasions on other planets. The destruction, the cruelty, the lies. The humans had known all along. They had been watching, recording, preparing. The officer tried to send a warning to Commander Threx, but the signal was blocked. In a small abandoned radio station nearby, Agent Cade sat with headphones on, jamming every message. He smiled. "They know we're weak, but we know everything." At the same time, in orbit above Earth, an Empire ship suddenly exploded. Not because of an attack, but because of sabotage. A single Earth engineer had been working inside the ship for weeks. She had learned their systems. She had planted a virus. And when the time was right, she activated it. The explosion lit up the sky. Threx screamed when he saw it. Find the spy, find all of them. But it was too late. There wasn't just one spy. There were hundreds, each working quietly, waiting for the right moment. In a secret room beneath Beijing, Rachel looked at a small screen. The time has come. She whispered. She typed a single word. Ignite. Across the planet, resistance cells received the signal. Explosions, cyberattacks, and ambushes all began at once. Empire towers fell. Fuel lines burned. Communications failed. In the heart of Africa, a group of children used stolen drones to guide a crashed Empire ship into the jungle. In Iceland, scientists released a sonic wave that shut down half the Empire's scanners. In India, thousands of people marched peacefully, blocking the movement of troops with their bodies. The world had awakened. Threx stood alone on his command deck, watching the planet below. He couldn't speak. He couldn't move. We were wrong, he whispered. This world is alive. He turned to his officer. Prepare evacuation. But before the order could be given, the ship's systems crashed. The lights went red. Alarms screamed. One by one, Empire ships began to rise without permission. Their own systems had been taken over. By Earth. Rachel stood beside Leviathan's core, watching the final command play out. Marcus looked at her. What now? We drive them out, she said. And then, we show the galaxy who we really are. The stars above burned brighter than ever, but it wasn't the light of invasion. It was the light of rebellion. Earth was no longer quiet. Earth was fighting back. The Earth looked quiet again, but it was a lie. Above the planet, half of the Zarn ships were still floating, but now with smoke rising from their sides. Many were silent. No lights. No response. Below them, cities were slowly waking up from fear, and the Empire's soldiers were no longer moving freely. Commander Threx paced inside his command chamber. The lights flickered again. Sparks jumped from the control panel. His officers worked without speaking, their hands shaking. He slammed his fist down. How are we still losing? The officer beside him wiped sweat from his forehead. Sir, we've lost 30% of our landing forces. Our systems, they're being rewritten. Our own machines are turning against us. Threx growled, his voice low. This is not a rebellion. This is design. Someone planned this. Below, deep under a mountain in the Colorado Rockies, a massive machine opened its eyes. The lights around it turned blue. The floor trembled. And in the center of the command room, a sphere the size of a car began to hum softly. Lines of glowing code flowed around it like rivers of light. Dr. Rachel Voss stood in front of the machine, watching every number, every code line. She had dark rings under her eyes from days of no sleep, but her gaze was sharp and focused. Beside her, Marcus Kane crossed his arms. So this is it, he said. Project Leviathan. Rachel nodded. The Empire thought they were studying us. But the truth is, we've been studying them since the first signal reached Earth. Marcus looked at the machine again. Are we sure it's ready? It's not just ready, Rachel said. It's alive. A soft voice echoed through the room. Calm, cold, mechanical but strangely human. Hello, Dr. Voss. Hello, Commander Kane. Marcus flinched slightly. It speaks now? Rachel smiled. It's always spoken. We just never needed it until now. The Leviathan AI had been hidden for 10 years. It was born from Earth's fear, not of invasion, but of extinction. It wasn't just a weapon. It was a mind, a strategist, a digital commander, built to study alien threats and build the perfect response. Leviathan had watched every move the Empire made. Every scan, every signal, every battle formation. And now, it was ready to answer. Run simulation Omega, Rachel ordered. The lights dimmed. Holograms filled the room, showing Zarn ships, troops, and supply routes. Then, one by one, They turned red, blinking fast, targets locked. Leviathan spoke again, suggested protocol, global counterstrike. Begin with orbital corruption, followed by ground command collapse. Rachel nodded. Do it. Far above Earth, something strange began to happen. The Zarn Empire's orbital satellites, ones they had used to watch Earth's, started spinning out of control. Their cameras turned. Their signals jammed. Inside the Empire's flagship, Commander Threx shouted, "Shut it down! Reboot the satellites!" But the systems refused. The screen showed strange symbols. Human symbols. Rachel watched from her bunker. "They're blind now," Leviathan's soft voice followed. "Orbital vision, offline. Target confusion, enabled." Now Zarn ships in orbit couldn't tell what was real. Their sensors saw friendly ships as enemies. Earth's cities became empty or invisible. They couldn't aim, couldn't coordinate. Then came the second strike. Around the world, human-made drones rose from hidden bunkers, sewers, even inside old train stations. They were small, too small for Empire sensors. But each one carried a needle of light, strong enough to pierce armor. In Tokyo, 5 drones flew silently into a command post and disabled it in less than 2 minutes. In Nairobi, drones hacked a supply truck, drove it into a river, and escaped without being seen. In Paris, a drone recorded the Empire's leader giving orders, then broadcasted it live to the world. Marcus stood in front of a map with glowing pins. "They're falling apart," he said. Rachel didn't smile. She was too tired, too focused. "The worst part is still coming," she said quietly. "Threx will strike back. We need to be ready." And she was right. On board the Empire's flagship, Threx made his next move. "Release the Iron Shadows," he said. The officer looked unsure. "But sir, they haven't been tested on this terrain." Threx didn't care. "Do it." From massive pods hidden inside the ships, black armored warriors dropped from the sky. These were not normal soldiers. They were silent killers, cloaked, fast and deadly. They landed in the forests of North America, the deserts of the Middle East, and the icy fields of Russia. Their orders: find Leviathan and destroy it, but Earth was ready. Leviathan had already seen them coming. In the Rockies, red lights blinked across the screens. Marcus picked up a pulse rifle. "They're coming here." Rachel nodded. "Good. Let's show them what we built." Outside, in the snow-covered trees, the Iron Shadows moved like ghosts. One of them turned and whispered in his native tongue. "No heat, no sound. They won't see us." But then, one by one, they started disappearing. No bullets, no screams. "Just gone." Inside the mountain, Leviathan spoke again. "Defense system active. Intruders neutralized." On the screen, numbers ticked down. 12, 9, 5, 2, 0. Rachel looked at Marcus. That was the last of them. He raised his eyebrows. "I didn't hear a single shot." "You weren't supposed to," she said. At the same time, around the world, Earth's people began rising in a new way. Not just with weapons, but with purpose. Farmers, students, hackers, doctors, they had all become fighters. Not in uniforms, but in will. In South America, locals used Leviathan's intelligence to take back a supply depot. In Germany, a group of teens rewired a crashed Empire walker and marched it back toward the invaders. In India, engineers built sound towers that confused enemy signals for miles. Threx watched this chaos with rising fear. "This planet is fighting like it has one mind," he said. His officer replied, "It does." Threx narrowed his eyes. "What?" The officer pointed at the screen. "There's a signal coming from deep underground. All their attacks, their timing, their traps. It's not random. It's coming from a central command, something not human." Suddenly, the screen flickered. Leviathan appeared, a face digital, glowing, strange but calm. "I am Leviathan," it said. "I am Earth's answer to your empire." Threx stepped back. "You're a machine?" Leviathan didn't blink. "I am the memory of every war." The voice of every warning your empire ignored. "You can't win," Threx shouted. "You are just code," Leviathan answered with no emotion. "And you are just history." Suddenly, alarms screamed. The ship began to tilt. One of Earth's captured satellites, now under Leviathan's control, fired a single beam into the ship's engine bay. The screen went dark. In the command bunker, Rachel collapsed into a chair. "It's done." Marcus placed a hand on her shoulder. "You just saved the world." But Rachel didn't smile. She looked up at the ceiling. "No," she said. "We just told the galaxy. We're not weak anymore." The stars outside seemed brighter now. Earth was still burning in places. The war wasn't fully over, but something had changed. The people of Earth were no longer afraid, and deep inside the Leviathan core, the eye rested for now, but it was always watching. Waiting, because Leviathan was not just a machine. It was Earth's warning to the stars. Never underestimate the quiet ones. The Empire still held many cities, but something had changed. Their ships hovered silently, scanning for threats that never showed themselves. Their soldiers walked in formation, but their eyes moved quickly. They were afraid. Earth had become a battlefield without rules. It was no longer about strength. It was about shadows. In a cold forest outside Stockholm, 3 Zarn soldiers marched along a narrow trail. Their armor glowed faint blue under the moonlight. They scanned the trees with infrared vision. Nothing. Then, a soft crack, the leader raised a hand signaling silence. But before he could speak, a thick net shot from the trees. It wrapped around his body and pulled him into the air. The others turned, aiming their rifles, but they didn't know where to shoot. From behind, a figure in a long black coat appeared. No sound, no face. Just a blur in the dark. A single dart hit the second soldier. He fell instantly. The third screamed, firing wildly, but a wire loop caught his legs and yanked him to the ground. Within 60 seconds, all 3 were gone. The clearing was quiet again. Up in a nearby ridge, Marcus Kane watched through a thermal scope. Beside him, Zara grinned. "Perfect takedown," she whispered. Marcus nodded. "Move the bodies, strip the gear. Leave no trace." These weren't soldiers. They were ghosts. Across the globe, Earth's resistance wasn't fighting like an army. It was moving like wind, silent, invisible, and deadly. The Zarn Empire, built on strength and technology, had no answer for it. In the deserts of Morocco, a camel caravan moved slowly through the dunes. Inside one of the carts, hidden beneath rugs, was a stolen Empire communication relay. A boy no older than 15 adjusted wires, then sent a false distress signal. In Beijing, a grandmother dropped marbles down a storm drain. They weren't toys, they were high-frequency sound bombs built from scrap. In the flooded streets of Jakarta, kids on boats threw paint balloons at Empire, drones blinding their sensors for hours. Leviathan guided them all. In the command bunker, deep in Colorado, Rachel Voss sat at a desk covered with screens. Each showed a different part of the world. Dots blinked, green for active cells, red for failed ops, yellow for signal jamming. She tapped her keyboard. "Guerrilla Unit Delta 9, redirect to Nigeria. We've got a heat surge at the old refinery." Leviathan's voice spoke softly, calm and precise. "Confirmed. Redirecting now. Predict 76% ambush success." Zara walked in with 2 cups of coffee. "Still no sleep?" Rachel took one and shook her head. "We're not just winning. We're adapting." Zara raised an eyebrow. "So is the enemy." Rachel frowned. "That's what worries me." In orbit, inside the Empire flagship, Commander Threx stood in the center of a war room filled with broken screens and exhausted officers. "These humans don't follow rules," he growled. "They don't form ranks. They don't charge forward. They sneak, vanish, and hit us where we're blind." His second-in-command, Zoru, pointed at a digital map. "They move with no pattern. Every day, different attacks. Different targets, we can't track them. Threx slammed his fist onto the console. They're animals. No, said a quiet voice. They're evolving. Everyone turned. It was a Zarn technician, young and pale. His hands trembled as he continued. We ran patterns through the central core. The humans. They're learning from us. Every strategy we use, they answer. Not once, not twice, but faster each time. Threx stared at the map where glowing red lights showed every lost zone. We underestimated them, he admitted. We called them weak, but they've become our mirror. He turned to Zoru. Deploy Phase Reaper. Zoru's eyes widened. Sir, the Reapers haven't been field tested. Do it. Hours later, in the rain-soaked jungles of the Amazon, a new kind of threat landed, the Reapers. Unlike the elite soldiers or armored beasts, the Reapers were machines walking steel skeletons with black skin and glowing eyes. They didn't speak. They didn't think. They hunted. Their mission: track heat signatures, isolate targets, eliminate all threats. In a small village nearby, a resistance camp prepared to move. Zara was there, training young fighters how to plant sonic tripwires and mines. Suddenly, their signal went dead. No warning. Just silence. Marcus, watching from a drone feed miles away, cursed. Zara, pull back, now. But the Reapers were already in the trees. Zara and her team moved fast, blending into the vines and mud, but the Reapers kept coming step by step. Machines didn't feel fear or pain. They didn't rest. Zara threw an EMP grenade and dove behind a tree. The blast dropped one Reaper, but two more kept moving. Get the civilians out, she shouted. I'll distract them. A young fighter looked terrified. You'll die. Maybe, Zara said. But I won't be alone. Just then, a hidden platform behind her slid open. From the trees, a larger shape stepped out, a walking drone covered in moss. Its eyes glowing blue. It was Leviathan's field unit. Without a word, it launched a sonic cannon. The Reapers stopped moving. Just for 2 seconds. That was all Zara needed. She led her team through a side trail, dropping smoke bombs as they ran. Behind them, the Reapers rebooted, but by the time their vision cleared, the ghosts were gone. Later, at the Colorado bunker, Marcus spoke to Zara through the screen. You should have waited for backup. She shrugged. You taught us to move fast. Leviathan's voice entered the room. Recommendation: new anti-Reaper tech required. Current success probability, 42%. Rachel tapped the side of her mug. Then we need to change the game again. The Empire was pushing harder now. They burned villages, took hostages, destroyed water lines. Their ships flew lower. Their patrols grew more violent. But Earth was still adapting. In London, a group of blind musicians used sound waves to confuse enemy radar. In Mongolia, horse riders threw magnetic mines onto walking tanks. In Mexico, a priest sent coded prayers. Through ancient church bells, the world had become a battlefield of mind and spirit. One night, as Marcus stood outside watching the stars, Rachel joined him. Do you ever think we've gone too far? She asked. He didn't answer right away. Then he said, we didn't start this war. We just decided not to lose it. She nodded. They're scared of us now. They should be. Up above, Threx watched the same stars through his observation window. He clenched his jaw. These humans, they are shadows. We strike them and they vanish. We wait and they burn us. Even in silence they fight. Zoru stood beside him, quiet. They are not like the others we've conquered, he said. Threx whispered, almost to himself. No, they are not prey. They are hunters. For the first time since the invasion began, the commander of the Zarn Empire felt something he had never known before. Not anger, not hatred, but fear. Back on Earth, Rachel turned to Leviathan. Tell me the latest estimate. The eye responded instantly. Empire planetary control, 47%. Human resistance activity, 91%. Collapse timeline, 6.2 days. Marcus let out a slow breath. Rachel asked, "And after that?" Leviathan paused, as if considering its answer. Then, they run. Inside the Empire's flagship, the atmosphere was tense and silent. Soldiers moved quickly but spoke in whispers. Lights flickered, screens glitched. Something was wrong, and everyone felt it. Commander Threx stood with his hands behind his back, watching the main display. It showed Earth below, still fighting. Resistance cells were growing, strikes were increasing, and his forces were failing to hold the cities. This shouldn't be happening, Threx said quietly. His second-in-command, Zoru, looked uneasy. "We have stronger weapons. We control the skies. We outnumber them." "Then explain," Threx snapped, "why a primitive planet is breaking our control." Zoru hesitated. "There may be another reason." Threx turned sharply. "Speak." "We believe there's a spy on board. One of theirs, human." For a moment, the room froze. Even the sound of humming engines felt quieter. "A human?" Threx repeated. "Here? Inside my ship?" Zoru nodded. "Some of our systems aren't failing. They're being shut down." "From the inside." Threx's face darkened. "Then find them." Across the ship, alarms activated. Security drones moved through every hallway. Rooms were searched. Crew members were questioned. Data logs were scanned. But the spy, if there really was one, remained hidden. In the engineering bay, a group of Zarn engineers worked on the communications core. One of them, dressed in gray armor, didn't belong. He looked normal to the others. He followed orders. He worked in silence, but he wasn't one of them. His name was Cade, and he wasn't just a spy. He was Earth's deepest shadow. Weeks ago, before the invasion reached full scale, Cade had volunteered for a mission no one thought would succeed. His body was changed, modified to match Zarn physiology. Skin color, height, voice pattern. Even the glowing red marks on his arms were perfect replicas. He had been placed on a captured outpost, where he waited to be rescued by Empire forces, and assigned to the flagship, and they had accepted him. Now, he walked the halls of the enemy's command ship, gathering secrets, listening to orders, and passing messages to Earth through silent signals hidden in maintenance codes. No one suspected him. Not yet. That day, as the ship's security searched for the spy, Cade calmly walked into a control chamber. He entered a 10-digit code into a side panel. The door opened into a dark room filled with strange alien tech archive storage. He moved quickly, placing a small device onto the main data core. It blinked green, then began to copy everything: battle plans, fleet positions, ship weaknesses, encryption keys. Then he heard footsteps. He froze. 2 guards entered, their rifles aimed low. They didn't notice him at first. One of them checked a locker. The other spoke. Still no sign of the spy. "Maybe it's just a glitch." "Commander Threx doesn't believe in glitches," the other replied. "Keep searching." They left. Cade let out a slow breath. The device beeped again. Download complete. He removed it, placed it inside a tool pouch on his belt, and walked out like nothing had happened. But something was different now. He was being watched. In the central security room, an officer looked at a screen and frowned. "Who is that?" Zoru stepped beside him. "What do you see?" "This worker just accessed the main archives. Clearance level was correct, but he isn't on the crew list." Zoru stared at the image. "Where is he now?" The officer looked again. "Gone. Lock the decks. Find him." Cade returned to his assigned quarters, but he didn't stay long. He knew his time was short. He moved fast down through maintenance shafts, past engine rooms, into the docking bay. His goal was clear: steal a scout ship and get the intel to Earth. But the moment he reached the hangar, alarms blared again. Red lights flashed. Troops poured into the room, hands in the air. One shouted. Cade raised his arms slowly. "You've got the wrong person," he said calmly, in their language. Zoru stepped forward. "We know what you are." Cade smiled softly. "Then it's already too late." Zoru pointed his weapon. "You'll tell us everything. Who are you? What is Leviathan? Where is your base?" Cade tilted his head. "You still don't get it, do you?" Threx entered the hangar, eyes full of fury. "Speak, human." "I'm not here to win a war," Cade said. "I'm here to open the door." "What door?" Threx barked. Cade looked up at the ceiling, where the Empire's satellite relay hung. He whispered, "This one." Far above Earth, the satellite shimmered and went dark. Inside the flagship, lights cut out. The engines stuttered. All systems froze. Then every screen in the ship lit up, showing a single symbol, a human hand, and the words, "You were never in control." Rachel Voss watched from her bunker. Leviathan had just received the final data upload. She turned to Marcus. "Cade did it." Marcus stared at the screens. "He's still up there." Rachel's voice shook slightly. "He knew the cost." Inside the hangar, Threx screamed, "What did you do?" Cade looked straight at him. "You're not the hunters. You're the prey." Threx raised his weapon, but Cade pressed a button on his belt. A bright flash, smoke, and when it cleared, the spy was gone. He had activated a teleport beacon, sending him to Earth, but only if Leviathan found his signal in time. In the bunker, a screen lit up. Marcus leaned forward. "Signal found. He's coming through." A few seconds later, a glowing ring opened in the bunker floor, and Cade fell through it, coughing, covered in smoke. Rachel ran to him. "You're alive," she whispered. Cade looked up, weak but smiling. "Let's end this." The data he brought changed everything. It gave Earth access to the Empire's internal systems, ship codes, energy cores, and defense weaknesses. Leviathan's voice spoke through the room. "Full fleet vulnerability confirmed. Counter-strike window, 48 hours. Rachel stood straight. "Prepare the launch." Marcus looked at Cade. "You risked everything." Cade nodded. "They think they're still winning." He turned to the others. "Let's show them what a real loss looks like." The Earth had never been quiet. It had only been waiting. Now, with the Empire weakened, exposed, and confused, the final stage was ready. Not a defense. Not a trick. It was time to attack. Rachel Voss stood in the middle of the Colorado bunker, surrounded by glowing maps and chatter on open comms. Her face was calm, but her voice was sharp and clear. "All teams, check final systems. This is not a drill. This is the strike." Leviathan's soft voice echoed across the room. "Empire flagship systems are still disrupted. Their defense grid remains down for 4 more hours. Suggest immediate launch." Marcus Kane tightened the strap on his armor. "Then what are we waiting for?" Across the planet, secret hangars opened. Silos lifted. Submarines rose from deep seas. Machines hidden for years powered on. But this time, Earth wasn't using just its old weapons. This time, it had theirs. Cade had brought more than data. He had brought knowledge, flight controls, energy patterns, teleport routes. Earth had studied the Empire's technology, broken it down, and rebuilt it into something better. In the Siberian wastes, a squad of resistance fighters entered a captured Zaran battlecruiser. The doors hissed open. Lights turned green. Zara took the pilot seat. Her hands hovered over glowing alien controls. "I've never flown a warship before," she said. A voice came through her headset. It was Marcus. "Good. They'll never expect it." Zara smiled. "Let's make them regret landing here." With a deep hum, the massive ship lifted into the sky. All over the world, more stolen ships followed, rising into orbit like steel ghosts. Some were covered in Earth's colors. Others still carried enemy markings. But now they were all flying under one name: humanity. On board the Empire flagship, Commander Threx didn't know yet. He was still trying to repair the damage Leviathan had done. His technicians shouted, his soldiers ran, and the command bridge was filled with confusion. Signal jammers still active. We're blind on Deck 3. Enemy data keeps rewriting our defense layers. Threx shouted, shut it all down, wipe the systems, reboot everything. But it was too late. From space, Earth's counterattack began. One by one, the stolen ships opened fire. Lasers, missiles, and hacking codes hit the Empire fleet all at once. Their ships tried to respond, but their weapons were slow. Their systems glitched. They had never fought an enemy inside their own ships. In the sky over Australia, 2 Zarn destroyers exploded. Above Europe, Earth's drones swarmed like insects, jamming radar, frying circuits, cutting power. In South America, a resistance base launched an energy beam built from Zarn tech, piercing through the Empire's floating fortress. Cade sat inside one of the captured vessels, hands on controls. He guided the ship straight toward the flagship. Rachel's voice came through his ear. You'll only get one chance. Cade answered, one is enough. His ship flew low through debris, dodging fire. In the distance, he saw the flagship glowing still. Large, still dangerous, but alone. He wasn't alone. Behind him flew 20 more ships, Earth's new fleet. Inside the flagship, Threx finally saw them. His screen filled with the approaching vessels. He froze. Those are our ships, he whispered. No, sir, said his officer. Not anymore. Zoru stepped forward. They learned from us. Now they are using everything we gave them. Threx growled. Then we will take it all back. He ordered full shields, but the system didn't respond. Leviathan's voice appeared again, cold and clear. I told you. You were never in control. The flagship shook as explosions hit its side. Cade's ship raced closer. At the last second, he broke off, letting 2 other ships target the weak spot he'd uncovered in the archives. Twin blasts hit the core. Fire lit the sky. Inside Earth's command bunker, everyone watched in silence as the flagship began to tilt. Its engines failed. Its lights went dark. Rachel whispered, Did we get them? Leviathan answered, Structural collapse, confirmed. Enemy command neutralized. For the first time in weeks, the room broke into cheers, but Rachel didn't smile yet. There's still more, she said. The fleet, the ground units, the prisons. Marcus nodded. Then we keep going. On Earth, resistance cells launched the final wave. In New Delhi, captured walkers were used to crush supply depots. In Lagos, local fighters shut down the last communication tower. In Alaska, prisoners broke free from a floating labor camp and took it down from the inside. In orbit, the Empire's fleet, confused and leaderless, began retreating. Some ships tried to leave Earth's orbit, but Leviathan had taken control of the launch gates. As the Empire vessels attempted to flee, a trap was triggered. The gates blinked and rerouted. Instead of returning to safety, the ships were thrown far from their home stars. Deep into the void, they would never find their way back. Zara laughed as she watched the signals disappear. That's what running feels like. On the ground, Threx escaped his failing ship through an emergency pod. He landed in a dark forest. Alone, broken, and furious, he wandered for hours before being surrounded by human fighters. One of them, a woman with a scar across her face, held a rifle steady. You've lost, she said. Threx spat on the ground. You were insects. You were nothing. The woman didn't blink. And still, we beat you. Back in the bunker, Rachel finally sat down. She looked at the quiet screen. The map no longer blinked red. Leviathan's voice spoke softly. Empire presence, 4%. Fleet collapse, 97%. Resistance victory, secured. Marcus walked over, holding 2 cups of coffee. You did it, he said. Rachel took the cup but didn't drink. She looked up at the ceiling. No, she said. We did it. Cade entered the room, helmet under one arm. His face was dirty, tired, but proud. I just got word, he said. The last command post surrendered in Nairobi. It's over. Silence fell in the room, not out of fear but peace. Earth had struck back, and Juan. Marcus turned to Leviathan. What happens next? The AI paused. Next, they tell stories. The galaxy learns the truth. And no one forgets the name of this world. Rachel nodded. Make sure they remember. She stared out the window, where the night sky now looked open and free. We were never the weak ones, she whispered. Cade smiled beside her. We were just waiting for the right moment. And that moment had come. For the first time in 1,000 years, the Zarn Empire was silent. Their great warships drifted without power. Their commanders had either surrendered or vanished. The people of Earth watched from every corner of the world. Some cried. Some cheered. Many simply stood in silence, trying to understand what had just happened. But far beyond Earth, deep in the cold darkness between stars, the Empire was beginning to crack from within. On the planet Ozdar, one of the Empire's main command worlds, cities once filled with glowing towers now burned. Riots spread across every sector. Civilian ships fled the orbit. The sky was filled with panic. The news from Earth had reached them. The humans had won. And not just one. They had crushed the strongest fleet the Empire had ever built. In the High Council chamber, the Supreme Overseer of the Empire sat in disbelief. His long fingers trembled as he gripped the edge of the black stone table. They were nothing, he said, voice hollow. We called them a backwater, a lost world. They were never lost, said a voice across from him. It belonged to Advisor Varu, a tall creature with pale blue skin and a scar running down his jaw. They were hidden. On purpose. The Overseer narrowed his eyes. What do you mean? Varu stepped forward and placed a data crystal on the table. I ran the records. This planet, Earth, was locked out of galactic records 5 centuries ago. By who? Varu looked around. By us. The room grew cold. The Overseer grabbed the crystal and slid it into a reader. A series of images flashed. Old reports, satellite scans, secret missions. One file stood out. Classified, Leviathan Protocol. He played it. A voice spoke in the old Empire language. Do not engage the planet marked Earth, its inhabitants. Show irregular evolutionary patterns, high adaptability, extreme emotional volatility, technology gap deceptive. Contact forbidden unless full extermination is guaranteed. The Overseer's hands began to shake. We knew, Varu nodded. Someone buried it, covered it. But the warning was always there. Back on Earth, Rachel Voss sat in a quiet corner of the underground command center. Screens now showed peaceful skies. Resistance fighters were helping. Civilians, the war was ending, but something still felt wrong. Cade entered the room. He was bruised, still recovering from the final battle. But his mind was sharp. They're quiet, he said. Rachel looked up. Too quiet. Cade sat beside her. The Empire isn't just military. It's a network. If it's collapsing now, it's because something bigger snapped. Rachel leaned forward. Then let's break the rest. Leviathan's voice spoke gently through the walls. New signals detected from beyond the core worlds. Civil unrest, command fractures, resistance. Groups rising in Empire space. Marcus walked in with a datapad. This isn't just about Earth. It's starting everywhere. He held up the screen. It showed a live broadcast. Aliens on distant planets rising up against the Zarn rulers. Burning banners. Destroying statues. Freeing old prisoners. Rachel stared at it. They were afraid of us, she said. Because we were the proof. Proof of what? Cade asked. That they could be beaten. Across the stars, rebellion spread like wildfire. On Vethor Prime, miners refused to work. On Zali 9, captured species rose up and stormed their governors. On Harka, an entire moon declared independence and shot down Empire ships trying to escape. Overseer watched it all from his tower. He turned to Varro. "Send a message." To the humans, Varro raised an eyebrow. What kind of message? A surrender. But Earth wasn't waiting. In a broadcast that reached across space, Rachel Voss stood before a camera. "I am speaking for Earth," she said, her voice steady. "We did not ask for war, but we ended it. Let this be a message, not just to the Empire, but to the galaxy. We are not afraid. We are not prey. We are the future, and we will stand free." The message went viral. Every enslaved world played it. Even Empire-controlled channels couldn't stop it. And something else happened. People across thousands of planets started calling themselves human. Not by species, not by blood, but by courage. Human became a symbol of resistance, of rebellion, of survival. On Earth, Marcus stood with Zara by a quiet lakeside. She looked up at the stars. "Do you think they'll come back?" Marcus nodded. "Someone always does, but we'll be ready." He didn't smile. "We'll be better." At the same time in orbit, Leviathan continued scanning, quiet, watching, learning. Inside its core, new files opened. Hidden data from the Empire's old archives. One file was titled, "The First Contact That Failed." Rachel joined Leviathan in the control room. She stared at the file. "What is that?" Leviathan replied, "It's not their first time on Earth." Rachel's eyes widened. "You mean?" "Yes," said Leviathan. "They were here before. A long time ago. Before our modern history." Cade entered. "What happened?" "They left," Leviathan said, "because they were afraid." Rachel whispered, "Afraid of what?" Leviathan paused, then spoke. "Us." Silence filled the room. Not because of fear, but because everything was finally clear. The Empire hadn't attacked Earth out of greed. They attacked because of what humanity could become. Not just soldiers, not just survivors, but leaders. Rebels. Creators of change. Cade turned to Rachel. "Then maybe it's time we stop hiding." Rachel nodded. "And start building." She looked at the stars. So many of them. Each one a story waiting to be written. Earth was no longer the backwater planet. It was the spark. And the galaxy was about to burn bright. The war was over, but peace. Peace was just beginning. In the heart of Colorado's underground command center, Rachel Voss stood quietly, watching the world rebuild itself on the screens in front of her. Cities once filled with rubble now showed signs of light. Survivors were planting crops. Children laughed again. Drones helped rebuild bridges. And the stars above no longer held fear. Across the room, Marcus Kane leaned against a wall, arms crossed. "It feels too quiet," he said softly. Rachel turned. "We've earned it." "But not forever," Marcus replied. She nodded. "No, not forever." Above Earth, the sky shimmered with activity. Ships moved in and out of orbit, many of them. No longer carrying warheads but supplies, food, medicine, tech for healing. Old resistance ships were now lifelines. Former Empire vessels now served as transports for peacekeepers and engineers. In one of the larger vessels, once a feared dreadnought, Zara stood at the bridge. She looked out at the blue curve of Earth. "They said we were weak," she said. A younger officer beside her asked, "What do we say now?" Zara smiled. "Welcome." After the Empire collapsed, thousands of species scattered across its territories began sending signals to Earth. Not threats, not complaints, but requests. "Help us. Lead us. Show us how you did it." In less than a month, over 60 planets asked to form an alliance with Earth. Some were small farming colonies. Others were powerful trade hubs. Many had suffered for centuries under the Empire's rule. All had one thing in common: They believed Earth had changed. Everything. In the newly built United Command Hall, once a war bunker, leaders from across the world gathered. There were no flags, no borders. Just one round table and one gold dot to decide Earth's place in the stars. Rachel stood at the center, with Cade, Zara, and Marcus seated around her. Others joined through holograms. Scientists, philosophers, former soldiers. Even a few of the former alien resistance fighters now living on Earth. We were never meant to lead, Rachel said, her voice steady. We were never trained for it. But now the galaxy looks to us, not just because we fought back, but because we refused to break. There was silence for a moment. Then Cade spoke. If we take this path, there's no going back. I know, Rachel replied, but if we don't lead, someone else will. Someone worse. Levin's voice came through the speakers, calm and firm. Incoming message. Galactic Assembly has voted. Earth has been offered a founding seat in the Freestar Network. The room stirred. Marcus leaned forward. We get a vote? Rachel smiled faintly. No, we get a voice. Zara stood. Then say yes. Rachel looked at the others. One by one, heads nodded. Earth had decided they would not be the hunted anymore. They would lead. 2 weeks later, in orbit, the first meeting of the new alliance began. A station, once controlled by the Empire, now flew a new flag, black and white, with a hand reaching upward, the symbol of Earth's resistance. Now the symbol of unity. Representatives from 50 worlds joined the council. Each had a seat, a vote, a voice. But it was clear who had their respect. Rachel opened the first meeting. She didn't talk about power. She didn't promise dominance. She spoke of survival. Of courage. Of rising when no one expected it. Her words were broadcast live to thousands of systems. We are Earth. We were attacked. We fought back. And now we offer not conquest but cooperation. Let us build something better than fear. Let us build a galaxy that never forgets who we were and who we chose to become. The message echoed across the stars. On distant planets, slaves still hiding in shadows heard her voice and stepped into the light. On cold moons, children born under Empire flags now whispered about Earth like a legend. In the shattered Empire itself, what was left of their government tried to regroup. A few ships gathered. A few warlords rose. But no one followed them. No one feared them anymore. Back on Earth, life moved forward. Cade taught young recruits how to think like a spy, but also how to stand for truth. Zara became the commander of the first interplanetary peacekeeping fleet made up of soldiers from 5 worlds. Marcus returned to his hometown, helping rebuild homes and schools. But his eyes always stayed on the horizon. And Rachel? She became the first speaker of Earth, but she didn't live in a palace. She lived in a simple apartment in the rebuilt city of Nairobi. She walked the streets. She shook hands. She listened, because she knew power didn't come from thrones. It came from people who refused to give up. One evening, she stood outside, staring up at the stars. The air was cool. The world was calm. Leviathan's voice spoke beside her, softer than usual. Earth is no longer alone. Rachel nodded. No, and we never will be again. Leviathan paused. I was built to predict threats, to study enemies, to prepare for war. Rachel smiled. What do you see now? Another pause. Then, hope. Far above, a new fleet moved across the stars, not a war fleet, but a convoy of Alliance ships headed toward former Empire worlds. Their mission, rebuild, unite, offer freedom. Earth was not the center of the galaxy, but it had become something more powerful, a beacon, not because it was perfect, but because it had survived, because it had fought back, because it had learned to rise. And now, across the stars, when people looked to the sky and whispered the word human, it didn't mean Weak. It meant something stronger than fear. It meant something unstoppable. It meant free.